Africa, there was one happy kingdom, Magadalupsa.
Its trees were huge, its animals so cool. There was one happy kingdom, Magadalupsa. They had a king called Swigo-Fanci.
His loyal pit boy named Shaba. Come with me to the land of giants, hippos, lions, crocs, and buffaloes.
Long, long ago, somewhere in Africa, there was one happy kingdom, one happy kingdom, one happy kingdom, Magadalupsa.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Stories from Magadalupsa. Magadalupsa was a great kingdom that existed in Africa many years ago. Its most famous king was King Swigo-Fanci, and his favorite page boy was Shaba. My name is Alero, and today I will be telling you why kings wear crowns. Long ago, in the kingdom of Magadalupsa, during the reign of King Swigo-Fanci, there was a long period when there was no rainfall. In Magadalupsa, the people had always known that there were two seasons. The first season was the rainy season, which was from April to October. During this period, rain would fall regularly, so many farmers would plant their crops in the farms. The second season was the dry season. This was from November to March. In the dry season, rain did not fall often. Indeed, in some months, there would hardly be any rainfall at all. But this year, after the dry season in March, came April and there was no rain. In May, there was not a drop of rain either. Then came June and not even a sign of rain. Magadalupsa was experiencing a drought. Across the entire kingdom, men and women became very worried and unhappy. Left and right, north and south, east and west, there was dust everywhere. Only the big and tall trees managed to remain green. Many smaller trees and shrubs shed their leaves. What used to be green lawns turned brown and dusty. Without green lawns to play on, many children often got their knees and their elbows bruised when they fell to the ground while playing. But that was not all. Soon, many children noticed that their food rations were becoming smaller and smaller by the day. They realized that often they didn't even have enough to eat. As the drought got worse with each passing day, food became harder to find in Magadalupsa. This is known as famine. So children, too, became very unhappy. What used to be a lively, happy town now looked like a big, unhappy brown and sandy desert. King Swigo-Fanci was very worried and sent for members of his Wisdom Council. The Wisdom Council was a group of very intelligent men and women, 10 in number. The duty of the Wisdom Council was to advise the king from time to time on different matters that affect Magadalupsa and its people. The leader of the Wisdom Council was Mr. Wiseman. King Swigo-Fanci would often boast, "There's no problem that my wise men and women cannot solve." The wise men and women spent many days thinking about the problem, but no one could solve it. The rain simply refused to fall, and Magadalupsa got drier and drier. Then one day, Shaba, the king's favorite page boy, saw Mr. Wiseman leaving the king's private chambers. Mr. Wiseman had just finished another meeting with the king to discuss the drought in Magadalupsa. Shaba stopped to chat with him.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wiseman. You must be very busy these days.
Oh, my boy Shaba. Shaba, the king's favorite page boy. Yes, indeed. I have been very busy in my library trying to solve this problem of drought in Magadalupsa.
Mr. Wiseman, I remember that you used to have plenty of hair on your head when I was a little boy. But now, you're completely bald. Why have you lost all your hair? Is this because you work so hard in your library?
Shaba, why are you reminding me of my bald head? Well, I must tell you that I am still very handsome.
Oh, you are still very handsome, sir. But why did your hair fall off?
It's because I'm growing old, my son. When some men get to a certain age, they begin to lose their hair.
At this point, Mr. Wiseman began to jump up and down
I have discovered it! I have discovered it!
as he ran back into the king's private chambers in excitement.
Oh, King! I had discovered the reason why we have had no rain, Your Majesty.
Is that so? I knew my wise men and women will solve this problem. I knew it. I am very, very proud of my wisdom council. Now tell me, why have we not had rain all these months?
My king, long may you reign. Your Majesty, you know that you are like me.
What do you mean by that?
You know that you have lost your hair and your head is now bald.
Yes, I know that. Do you want me to ask all men in Magadalupsa to shave their heads and become bald like you and me? Will that bring us rain?
No, Your Majesty. The problem is that since you are a king, the sun must not shine on your bald head. If it does, there will be no rainfall. This is why there has been no rainfall in our kingdom. You have become completely bald, and whenever you go out, the sun shines on your bald head.
I have never been happy with the way my hair disappeared. But I didn't know that it was my bald head which caused this problem. What are we going to do now? Should I wear a wig to cover my head whenever I walk under the sun?
No. Covering your head with a wig when you're under the sun will make the people laugh at you, because they already know you do not have hair anymore.
So should I cover my head with a cap or perhaps a turban whenever I'm under the sun?
No, Your Majesty. I have an even better idea. You will wear a specially designed hat that will be decorated with gold and silver. We will get our best designers and our most talented craftsmen to design it. And whenever you go outside of your palace and walk under the sun, you will wear it on your head to prevent the sun from reaching your bald head.
That sounds like a very good idea. So what shall we call this special hat?
We will call it a crown. It will be so beautiful that everyone will love to see it, and people will no longer remember that you have a bald head like me.
The king quickly got the best designers and craftsmen in Magadalupsa to design his crown, and in 2 weeks it was ready. The crown was beautiful, and everybody who saw it on the king's head loved it. The king wore it whenever he was outside of the palace, and the rays of the sun were unable to reach his head. Soon the rains began to fall again in Magadalupsa, and the plants became green again. The streets were no longer dry and dusty. The lawns became green again, and children could play without bruising their knees and their elbows whenever they fell to the ground. Men and women were happy because they knew that the rain would make the crops in the farms grow once again. King Swigo-Fanci took a liking to his crown and wore it very often. Soon, other kings started to take notice of this crown. They wanted to look powerful and handsome like King Swigo-Fanci, so they too made their crowns and began to wear their crowns. Before long, every king on earth made a crown for himself, and it became a tradition that every king must wear a crown. That is how kings began to wear crowns. That is why, till this day, kings and queens wear crowns. So now you know why kings wear crowns. Join me next time for another episode of Stories from Magadalupsa.